Norma, I'm cutting a hymn. That one right there. It's gone. Just like that. Well, I have to say it's nerve-wracking to preach in front of the Aboriginal Ministries Council. Particularly scary, of course, are Stan McKay and Lorna Standing Ready, but as they say, the preacher draws his breath in pain. I think that's something out of Hamlet. It takes some courage to speak in front of new folks, especially wise people. But the path of reconciliation takes courage and it takes honesty. So let me be completely honest with you this morning. I believe that reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people is the greatest hope for the Christian church in Canada to actually become what it was always meant to be when Paul and Peter and those guys dreamed up being a church in the first place. I believe that the work of reconciliation, which will take some time, but the work of reconciliation in this nation and between nations is how we will finally become a church that Jesus would be proud of. You know, Jesus didn't want to start a church, but he got one anyway. Here we are. But in the work of joining together and bringing our hearts together for this important work, I believe we have the great chance to move from being an institution to becoming the Jesus movement, again, like we might have seen in the book of Acts of first century Palestine. It was quite a scene that day in the temple. It's one of those stories that kind of sits in our hearts, especially as kids. You know, Jesus gets a whip of cords, and he's just like cruising through the temple. And you know, as Bruce Barton, 1922, historical Jesus guy, who wrote a book, The Man That Nobody Knows He Wrote. When I was 16, he pointed out in this book that, Jesus and the disciples lived outside all their lives, and they were shepherds and carpenters and fishermen, right? Similarly like Hulk Hogan, right? Like 24-inch biceps. These are big dudes, and they roll into a group of what, let's call them, kind of soft priests. Noodle arms, as they call me at home, right? These guys in the temple have been sitting around much of their lives, bossing others around to do the tough work. And in rolls the countryside, right? In rolls the smelly shepherds and the fishermen and the carpenters and the people of the land. And they're big and they're rough hands. And Jesus is in a mood. Zeal for the house of the Lord will consume him. I'm not sure zeal and anger are the same thing, for the record, but zeal is what Jesus was certainly filled with. We wrestle with his anger. There's whole sermons preached on, was Jesus angry or not angry? Probably angry, right? Anger can motivate. You know what they say, if anger is, it's a great thing. It's like gasoline. If it's spread around too much, somebody's inevitably going to light it on fire. But if you focus it and use it in your engine, it can drive you. Jesus was filled with gasoline that day. He was ready to just move things and shake it up right in the center of the religion. Just on anger for a second. Because in the work of reconciliation, all of us can bump into some anger. Our own or the anger of others. And I've realized over the last decade or so in reconciliation work that most of us really need to develop an ability to hold anger. Just to hold it. We don't have to absorb it. We don't have to give it back. But we love to react. Or to make up excuses. Or to say, oh, wait a minute, that wasn't me. Right? We really, really need to learn how to hold anger. So somebody is really upset. It's an honor for us to hold their anger. To hear it and to hold it. Appropriately. As an honest emotion that is important to hear. And not move to always a place of defensiveness or could you just take that into a different room, please? Like we love to do. But let's concentrate on what the action of the day was, which was the turning of the tables. It says he drove all of them out, both the sheep and the cattle. So he wasn't hitting people with the whip, of course, or somebody might have got caught, but he was beating the animals out of the temple. And then he just starts flipping tables. I just love that image, right? You know, sometimes when you're in a store and you're not getting service, you ever just feel like dropping something on the floor, right? They'll come running. I just have this idea of Jesus just Peter and the sons of thunder, Zebedee, sons of Zebedee, John and James, and just, oh wow, we never thought we'd ever get to do this with this Jesus guy. And they just start flipping tables over, and there's coins scattering everywhere. That's the image. The tables being flipped and the coins falling on the ground. And look at these guys. They're like clinging to their coins. This story is about upsetting the religious institutions, the ways that which the religious institutions like to cling to, stuff we like to cling to, like money. You know, they were swindling, right? They were cheating. That's what was happening in the temple. It was a scene of power and control. Cheating, swindling, people bring their Roman coins and they got turned into Jewish shekels because that's all you could use in the temple, and the exchange rate, let's say, wasn't completely honest, right? And the animals that were being sold that were seen as pure doves and good goats and good sheep and good, they were being overpriced. Markup in the temple was high. It's a great way to keep power over people, keep them poor. Keep them on the hook of insupportable debt. Ooh, that's a Bruce Coburn line. Keep them on the hook of insupportable debt. So Jesus goes in and he starts to turn over everything that they're clinging to. The lies, the cheating, the stuff that religious institutions love to do to dismiss people, to change the rules constantly. Oh no, that was last week. This week it's this much. It's all power and empire at the temple. On the path toward reconciliation, and we were just talking in a meeting this week, reconciliation is a big, long word, and it's used a lot, especially in Saskatoon. We see it a lot. We've got it on a flag and organizations, and we're working towards reconciliation. It's not a bad word, but sometimes is it losing its steam? Let's get back to reconciling. I like that, because that's what it's about, reconciling. On the path to reconciling, which means returning in some definitions, there's going to be a lot of table turning. There needs to be a lot of table turning. If you've been sitting at the table of speaking all the time so that we can have control, that table's going to flip. Because one of the great things the church can learn, first and foremost, is how to listen and not speak at people. I know what you're saying. You first, Dave. I'm the preacher. I'll listen. I listen. We got to listen and not speak at or speak to all the time. So if that's the table you love, the love of speaking so you're in control, it's going to be flipped. Or the table of polarizing conversations will be flipped. We can learn new models of understanding and consensus. We'll learn to agree without needing to debate or use extremes or polarizing attitudes. Oh, I love a good debate too. This is a hard one. Anybody who's tried to work the consensus model with me in the church, they know. I got to sit on my hands. Got to sit on my hands and sew my mouth shut. It's a tough one. It's a table I like to cling to because it's just the way I was brought up. I got a crown prosecutor as a brother, right? He loved to debate. So I learned those jiu-jitsu moves of conversation in a Gaelic family. No, that table's going to be flipped. How about the table of being right all the time, or just right some of the time? That'll get flipped. We can learn what it means to be wrong. Oh, the Christian church, we have no idea sometimes how wrong. I remember the first time I learned about the Crusades at Theological College. The Crusades, Holy Cross, they called the Crusaders. Drives me snake every time I drive past that school. Home of the Crusaders, right? I learned the Crusaders, they went down to Jerusalem, right, to kick the Muslims out. Yeah, most of us okay, in the 80s, 90s, kick the Muslims out. Guess what they did on the way? They also burned every Jewish village they got their hands on and slaughtered Jews like crazy. Right? Like we're just not beginning what the Christian church did wrong in the last 150 years. It's been going on for a long time, folks. Sitting in being wrong is one of the most powerful things that can happen to any of us. I absolutely love being wrong. Nobody in my house believes that. But I just chuckle. I chuckle when I'm actually wrong. Right? I don't mean when somebody thinks they're right, but I know they're wrong and I'm actually... I mean, like when I actually find out something and I had it wrong for years, I actually can just hear the cosmos laughing and laughing. Jesus doing a belly roll. Right? And I just like, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love it. I love being wrong. And sitting in our wrongness is tough. It's achy. It's something we resist. But it is so important. I love in reconciliation, in reconciling, we learn to sit and be wrong. Both sides, all sides. We have these places we're wrong. And then we can still move toward one another at the same time. Oh, were you wrong? Yeah, well, I'm wrong too. Would you like to have a cup of coffee? Sure. Let's go be wrong together. That should be our new slogan, the United Church of Canada. Let's be wrong together. Maybe it would draw people in. I bet you it would. Because when you're wrong, your heart can be broken open. And, of course, we get to laugh together then. When we realize we're wrong. Often. Often. How about the table of false sense of place and identity? The stuff we're attached to that we think makes us us. I'm from Nova Scotia. I'm from Nova Scotia. Right? And that's something, to be from Nova Scotia. Oh, you got to see it. It's more beautiful than any place in the world. Except where Lorna grew up, or where Katie grew up, or where Reverend Dave grew up, Georgian Bay, whatever. Do you know why Georgian Bay is so beautiful? It looks like Nova Scotia. Hello? All those scraggly, group of 7 trees, they call them. I call them God's trees, and they're all from Nova Scotia. They just got taken to Georgian Bay somehow. It's just a fact. But that sense of identity, we're so proud of the land we come from, the rivers we come from, the families we come from, the economic status we come from. It just so permeates our being, and we need to kind of let that go through our fingers as Jesus tips that table over. It doesn't mean we're not allowed to be from somewhere, but what it means for us, and better than that, what it has meant for other people who have been hurt by where we're from, that's important. That table's going to get flipped. The table of ownership, who owns what? Oh, the church has got to learn. Oh, I'm just going to cling to the communion table for a minute because it's ours. No, it's not. On this journey, we will really learn what it means to walk with fearful hearts. There's something no one wants to sign up for. Would you like to come walk with fearful hearts? No. No, thank you. It's wonderful to walk with fearful hearts together. That's where the light gets to shine in. That's where epiphany actually happens. Imagine how terrified the Magi were as they approached that little stable for their great epiphany, for their great revelation. Couldn't have done it if they weren't fearful. You don't think Herod scared the boots off them? They went home a different way. Epiphany takes a fearful heart first. It takes some darkness and some worry. Because then when we bring those together, oh boy, we're quite a crew. We're going to be wrong together. We're going to be fearful together. But the light will shine through in all of that. We'll be honest together. We'll be honest together. We'll be God's people together. All of this table flipping will drive out what has made the church firm and tight and immovable and like a temple. You like these walls, Jesus says in one of the other Gospels? The disciples are like, look, Lord, look at all this great stuff. We're in the temple, first time in our lives. They don't usually let us in here. You like all this? We'll tear it down. 3 days, they'll build it back up again, Jesus says. It's just being snotty, right? Like, you like it? Tear it all down. 3 days, we'll build it back up again. That's epiphany. That's Jesus speaking to us. You clinging? You love those tables that you sit at? I'm not going to come and tip them all over. I'm bringing James and John with me. Watch it. Watch it. Because then we'll become broken, soft, and open. May it be so. Amen.